And, you know, so, but they didn't pay me like a regular professor. I didn't have any pension plans, and you know, regular professors would retire with a pretty handsome package. But in my case, I retired with the standard government package that a farmer would get, and that sort of stuff, which would be, you know, takes me 2 days to earn that money, but I get 2 days of work a month, and I've earned more money than what I get a month. But I could live on it if I had to. Yeah.
So was it Pat who got you into the local school work?
Well, Pat had started this whole concept back in the early 70s that he had decided that outdoor ed should be, you know, something that a school district like this should take advantage of. Look at what we're doing today. We take kids out of the classroom. What school can take kids out of the classroom and get 50 wild plants on the wall in one period? I mean, this district can do that, you know. And he was sending his teachers who were supposed to get qualified in canoeing, you know, a lot of the teachers, and then Gwillem, when Gwillem came into being, then Greg was a special, he went through all the training courses that you need, canoeing and kayaking and first aid and CPR and everything, so that he would be, you know, completely legal in the sense of somebody there. So he's quite a bit different than me. I'm not into a lot of that. I tell people I was there before the laws. And I always tell people, if you want to, if you're smart, you take me ahead of the paramedic. You think the paramedic knows what to do. It's all bullshit. I've never had accidents. And I won't have accidents. So why should I be highly trained for that? I mean, I come from a different direction. But anyway, Pat was taking the teachers there, and like everything else, you know, we realized that I could come here, and the teachers, all, you know, so you get 8, 10, 12 teachers coming to take course at Blue Lake. That's 8, 10, 12 people tied up, and you know, all that. And why not bring one guy like me into the community where you're going to get no travel? I mean, it's like 6 hours there. That's 12 hours of traveling, the gas and expense, and it's better to pay me for that. And so from about 1970 something on, I was pretty, I'd come 4 times, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times a year. Many long weekends. Sometimes there'd be programs where it'd be 5 days. Came on the verge of a number of times running university courses for, but if this was on the other side of the border, I would have been running university courses for all these teachers here. But I couldn't, because I have to have degrees to do it for British Columbia. But I didn't have to have degrees to do all this for Alberta. I got this guy from the University of Victoria phoned me once and said, we'd like to run on Aboriginal wilderness living skills, and so it's specifically for Aboriginals, and we hear that you work with Aboriginals and you're a survival instructor and all that. And I said, yeah. And we talked for about an hour and a half about, you know, this and that, what I did with Native people and whatever. And he said, he said, you know, it was a 3-week course. And he said, well, what sort of degrees do you have? And I said, I don't have any. End of that.
End of conversation.
Karen took that very same course, and she said it was an utter fiasco. She said it was the stupidest course that run, and she you know that. But that's not my skin off my nose there that way. But anyway, and but anyway, Pat. We started running a lot of workshops for teachers, and so it was a pretty constant thing, because teachers, they come and they move away and whatever. So every year there was pretty well the same pattern, where there were all these workshops on modern. If you're going to teach survival in class, you should be up to date. And what is it? And so a lot of these teachers, they got considerable guidance with regard to what it means to teach survival to kids and everything else. We camped at that site there a couple of times before, because when Pat decided, we camped there and sort of said, is this going to be suitable? We walked around. I went with Pat many places that the possibility would exist. And we ran workshops all over the place, not just here.
Right.
And but anyway, there was a point, well, 12 years ago, maybe 15, somewhere in there, he phoned me. He says, I guess our workshop relationship here is going to end. He said, because he says I don't have any control over the money that I used to pay you anymore. And he said that what had happened is that there was a central fund, and anybody who did anything extracurricular would apply to that fund for reimbursement on any expenses.
Okay.
So that's where I was being paid out of. And he said that instead of there being a central fund for all the schools to use, now every school was going to get their fair share in their own account.
Right.
And so he didn't have any money.
Right.
And about 6 months later, he phoned and changed the whole the whole thing, because he realized that when all the schools got money in their account, most of them, a lot of them, like McLeod School,
Yeah.
they what are they going to spend it on?
Yeah.
You know, so you know, the situation ended up that it was quite critical, because Pat was still working. You know, he was still up. He was about, you know, only one person above him, and so he saw that all this money, tens of thousands of dollars, was going to go back to the accountants. And so he arranged for that money to be spent. I wasn't the only one. There was, like I say, there was kayaking. There were all kinds of lessons up at Radar Lake, the lake itself, which you haven't seen there. And canoeing, and there was this big aquarium on wheels, like big semis with, you walk up and there's this aquariums on both sides, and there's all these coastal creatures. There was university step students that were going around giving bear awareness talks and grizzly awareness, and there was all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
But as time went on, there'd be less and less, and
Yeah.
pretty soon I was the only one.
Yeah.
There is occasionally somebody that appears and goes around doing stuff that I don't do, that's sort of, you know, burning up the money the way I am. But generally it's settled down that, you know, and then it's like Tumbler Ridge all of a sudden finds that it has this money. It's not a question that they, you know, it's a question that they are so happy I'll come and be able to spend it so simply.
Yeah.
You know, because they won't get any value from their money unless I come in and do this stuff with their kids.
Yeah.
And they've learned they don't particularly care. Some teachers sort of say, can you do this, can you do that? And like the lady there, you know, she'd be used to the cattail dolls.
Yes.
Because I probably go back with her for years.
Yeah.
But I don't have any cattails.
No.
And I haven't really done this plant stuff for a long time. I sort of got away from it. And every time I do it, it's a little bit better. You know, the grades, as you go up the grades, and I think that's a serious part. And sometimes I don't indulge in it, but I thought maybe since you were here, that point is one that could keep you really busy. You could actually do stuff. You know, like for example, I've got tons of materials in bags. So with the kids, instead of wimmy diddles, we could have brought out the bags and said, okay, you've taped up all these plants. Now you're going to tape up the wasp nest paper and porcupine quill, and you're going to tape up a piece of resin saturated wood. You're going to do this, that, and on, and you could occupy every minute, which I have done in the past. But I sort of, you know, I get tired of doing everything exactly too much the same, and it leaves little room for innovation and you know, getting other insights. It's in a state of flux. You can surprise yourself quite often how, like, you know, like your device there. I've heard about it. I've seen them around. I just never got around to making one.
No.
The kids love it,
Yeah.
and it's another, you know, it's one of the biggies, because anything that makes a sound or a noise, it always goes well with the kids. And I mean, it's just the beginning. Wait till you come back, wait till I come back to, you know, when I come to northern Sweden, you'll see I probably would have played with every conceivable resonating thing, and perhaps it goes into other areas of sound making. Might even be methods of sounding like Canada geese instead of just moose calls or whatever. You know, other things can be done.
Yeah.
Because as you see the kids playing with it, there's things that can come up that that you incorporate because they're.
Yeah.
My
relative had got a fantastic tube that made call like Canada goose, but I didn't quite see how it was put together. But there are possibilities. Yeah.
Well, you know, it's like that cow parsnip thing, that bugle.
Yeah.
That took years before that even occurred.
Yeah.
And some kid blew on it, and I said, "What's he doing?"
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that you would get that effect as if on a bugle or a trumpet.
Yeah.
And then probably about 2 years later, I hear this peculiar buzzing sound, and I said, "What did you do to that?" And the kid had stepped on it and broken it, and so now I purposely split it. Well, there's more to come. Like reeds and other things will come up, but that's sort of a thing. That's how it goes. And I mean, the bugle can take up 20 minutes, half an hour easily, if you need a filler like that. And the kids really like it, and and they're it sees like it touches a critical spot in people's sort of doing things.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more activities like that to be. It's like rubbing. Like I read about rubbing two tiles together to make a sharpening surface. And then it occurred to me to rub two pieces of sandstone together. Then I find that you can use it as a crucible, then you can use it as a mold for casting. But the kids absolutely love rubbing two pieces together, and then using that, or just rubbing two pieces together, and then maybe using it as a sanding thing, but as an excuse. With the little kindergarten kids, when you don't have the cattail dolls, you need a whole bunch of little things like that they really go for, and so on. And, I give the kindergarten kids a chunk of charcoal and say, "Here, draw me a picture." And they're just drawing pictures like mad. Pretty soon they're all black. The teachers those kids are black. But the kids enjoy the notion they picked up a chunk and didn't realize you could do that with charcoal and so on. So it's all in the continuum, but I am getting enough that a person can put together a bit of a professional thing, and so it's now I'm sort of into refining. Like, see here, I probably will continue this plant gathering with every class for the whole thing. Use it as the major thing because I haven't done it in a long time, and as those things, I insist they should be put up on the wall because I think when the other classes see it, it looks quite decorative, and it really is better than some of the things that are on the walls now. Well, as time goes on, a lot of teachers, if they get sold on it, they're doing more on it. They're seeing it's not that complicated. I've seen other teachers do it. They take off with that notion, and they do a lot of that sort of work, and they become meticulous, and the displays on the walls are most certainly a lot more sophisticated than just what the kids are simply doing. Like in high school, it might require every kid to have. I'll see what time I have with them. It might be that every kid has to make a collection of 25 of the most important plants and mount them singly and label them properly and create that sort of thing.
Do you ever get classes doing further research once they've done the...
Some teachers do.
Right.
Yeah, I point out, I have in the past pointed out to teachers what books they should get. And then the kids can refer to them and write essays. And that's the point of why they put their names on them. Because I'll tell the teacher, the kids got 5 plants. They're responsible for those 5 plants. They should write an essay on each. And the kids have to find out what the Latin names are and then use the Latin names to derive as many words in the English language as they are capable. But that sort of exercise is more, up in grade 8, grade 9, grade 12 area there. So you can study the Latin names of plants, and if you pick the right plants, the kids learn a lot of sophisticated words in their origins, that way. Now I'm going to probably also work on what I call the scaling. If you can't build a full-scale super shelter, at least you can build a quarter-scale one. And you may never need to ever build one in your life, but those that have built the quarter-scale will just about know what's to be done. But you can't go out and build a full-scale one because the opportunity isn't there, but everybody can build, or every 2 kids can build, or whatever. And I ran one session of this, and it went over really well. So probably the secondary school might get that.
Right.
Let's see. I was going to build one scale model for the grades 5s and 6s on Wednesdays or so on to see what reaction I get there.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the dandelion thing. I realized it was a lost cause. I was going to try to teach the kids that the dandelions weren't there.
No.
And so you sort of walk away from it. But there are times when everybody, you spend half an hour, you know, because the dandelion is suitable and everybody is working at it till they all get it. And the kindergarten kids often succeed with that, surprisingly. But that today, well, as I said, I'll cut your losses and run, because you're not going to get anywhere with this one. You know, the dandelion is just too small diameter to be able to do it predictably.
But the super shelter was received well on Friday, wasn't it? I mean, they weren't that keen on getting involved in building it, the majority of them, but once it was up, they all enjoyed using it. And
yeah, well, in that where we filled up the water, I actually built a full-size super shelter right in class.
oh right,
They gave me one room, and I don't often get that chance where they just give me one room and I stay in that room and the kids come and go out of the room.
right,
So I said, well, since the room is there, so I went and brought all the logs, and I built a full-fledged super shelter, and those balsam fir boughs, very much, well, it was like the one that's in front of the gazebo there.
yeah,
And the kids and I could kill a lot of time with all the kids laying down on the bed to see how soft it was, and you know, and you put it up and all that sort of stuff. So it really it sort of, I did so much of that in that school that I was sort of a little bit of a loss here in the sense that here I'm going from class to class and I don't have a central place where all the kids come in and we do our stuff. So that really cuts into your ability, because the kids love shelter building. You build a full-size shelter, they're seeing something valuable, and if they lay down and find out, gee, you know, that's a soft bed. It's not just, you know, what it is. That, you know, that sort of stuff. So I might do that in the high school. But I'll do a lot of that actually in Dawson when I get back from here, because after I'm finished here, the rest. And Jesus Christ, next Monday is already. There's just 2 weeks left, and I'm gone. I'm home.
yeah.
Well, the sky's the limit. There's a lot of things that we have the resources here. The unique nature, like at Don Titus, is the accessibility of so many plants to be used. So these schools should say our objectives is that every kid in the school will know the name of these 50 plants that grow. I mean, if we walk throughout the rest of the town, if we went in different directions, we would find 100 plants. I think, just within the town limits, walking distance from the school.
Yeah.
Not much further than what we've got here, in that loop that we're making. And I find that kids, it was really hot today, but I think the kids enjoyed that. Yeah. Going around looking at that sort of stuff. And no matter what age group, even the kindergarten kids, or even the high school kids, if I had them, they would be the similar thing. It's a nature walk. A lot of kids might say, well, nature walks are hard, but they're meant to be. Anything is easy.
It could have been a struggle if it had been an all day for one group.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 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 Well, you know, you've got your each and everything has got its advantages and disadvantages. I like it to get the same kids all day sometimes. That here you got 3 different groups in a day, which the younger grades, I think it's probably more appropriate because their attention spans and a few other things. But you have to structure you would have done the plant walk, and then the next period you would have made bows or arrows, or third period you would have built a full-size super shelter
Yeah.
somewhere, you know, and
Yeah.
you would do so much plants.
Yeah.
Usually when it comes to specimens, I generally find that kids up to grade 6, 12 specimens is pushing it.
Yeah.
You gotta have 3 specimens and then an activity.
Yeah.
3 specimens and an activity. And, you know, by the time you build a buck saw or do some, you know, drill holes with a bow drill, or, with the kids there, you saw that how much they wanted to saw those ends of the logs.
Yes.
That setting up sawhorses and
Yeah.
and that sort of stuff, and super, you know, if I had 4 saws
Yeah.
and more I could set up, they'd be sawing
Yeah.
for quite a while.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
a question, here, come over here and saw.
Yeah.
Now the kids are insisting.
Yeah.
They're sort of saying, it's my turn, I want my turn. You know,
Yeah.
that's essentially a lot of that sort of
Yeah.
stuff.
But I suppose with the super shelter, you could teach the various trees and so on that you use
that
in
go into the
construction
building.
of.
Yeah. And there's the rope maker. I've done that quite often with the younger grades. They're totally capable of turning that crank.
Right.
Trouble is, I don't have the quantity of twine to go, because I always created a skipping rope for that class.
Okay.
We twist up a really nice rope, and then they kept it as a skipping rope.
Yeah.
But they take their turns, and they would see all this, and then there was an activity. They're doing something.
Yeah.
It's not like activity. And I don't play games, but basically that sort of stuff. I had a potato gun.
Right.
The kids are just crazy about what they were